So, you know how we all saw that Nick de Vries got fired from the AlphaTauri Formula 1 team? Well, guess what? They're bringing in Daniel Ricciardo to replace him. Daniel has won 8 big races before, and he's Red Bull's backup driver this season. He's going to work for AlphaTauri for the rest of 2023. But here's the thing. Why are they doing this? What do Red Bull and AlphaTauri get out of this deal? And could this switch be part of a much bigger plan? Today we're going to talk about all the details of this switch and figure out why right now was the perfect time for Red Bull to make this move. It looks like it's all part of a much bigger plan. De Vries wasn't even mentioned in Red Bull's or AlphaTauri's announcements, except for AlphaTauri's team boss Franz Tost, who said thanks for his good work. "I'm really happy to welcome Daniel back to the team," said Tost. "There's no question about how good he is at driving, and he already knows many of us, so it'll be easy for him to fit in. The team will also learn a lot from his experience since he's won 8 Formula 1 races. I want to thank Nick for his good work during his time with our AlphaTauri team, and I wish him the best for the future." De Vries getting fired happened only 10 races into the season. De Vries is 28 years old, and Red Bull hired him for the 2023 season after he did an amazing job filling in for Alex Albon at Monza in 2022, where he finished in 9th place. But in his first full season in F1, this champion from Formula E and Formula 2 had trouble making a good impression. He's one of only 2 drivers who haven't scored any points yet, with his best finish being 12th at the Monaco race. His teammate, Yuki Tsunoda, has beaten him in qualifying 7 times out of 9. People have been worried about whether he'd keep his job for a while now. When Tost said a week ago that De Vries decides his own fate with how well he performs in the troubled car, everyone thought Red Bull's young driver Liam Lawson would be first in line to replace him. Lawson races in the Japanese Super Formula Series this year and could win the championship since he's already won races in F2 before. Red Bull announced Ricciardo's move to AlphaTauri after he did really well in Wednesday's tire test at Silverstone, his first time driving the RB19 car. "It's great to see Daniel hasn't gotten worse while he was away from racing, and that the progress he's been making in computer practice shows up on the real track," said Red Bull team boss Christian Horner. "His times during the tire test were really good. It was a very impressive drive, and we're excited to see what the rest of the season brings for Daniel while he's on loan at AlphaTauri." Daniel Ricciardo's best time at the tire test, using harder tires that don't need blankets, was 1 minute 27 seconds and 415 milliseconds, which was 0.7 seconds slower than Verstappen's pole time. These were set on different tires and in different conditions, of course. Both Red Bull and AlphaTauri said, Ricciardo stated, "I'm really excited to be back on track with the Red Bull family. Many fans are happy to see Ricciardo coming back to racing soon." But Red Bull has now fired or switched Formula 1 drivers 4 times in the past 7 years, with Nick de Vries being the most recent victim. Does this show a much bigger problem within the Red Bull teams? Red Bull brought in de Vries to be Yuki Tsunoda's partner at AlphaTauri this year, replacing Pierre Gasly, who went to Alpine. But de Vries wasn't their first choice. IndyCar race winner Colton Herta couldn't get an F1 super license. Instead, de Vries became a possibility after his surprising points-going debut at the Italian Grand Prix when he was called up on Saturday morning. To replace Alex Albon, de Vries did a great job in his surprise appearance, and that's still true. If a driver's ability to compete in a Grand Prix was the deciding factor in whether they should be signed, de Vries was a clear winner. But making a quick decision based on just one race is crazy. It's nuts that a modern F1 team can make such important decisions this way. This shows clear signs of problems in their planning. It's weird to fire him just a few months into the season. In some ways, Red Bull has nothing to gain by keeping him until the end of the year and then replacing him with maybe the same driver. But not having a real chance to change things leaves them having to defend their choice. More importantly, what did Red Bull or Marco expect? How far off was their process that a rookie like de Vries, despite being clearly second best behind his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, deserves to be fired before the summer break? Franz Tost, AlphaTauri's team leader, thinks a driver needs several years to get used to F1. The decision is surely being made against what he wants. That outside interference comes into play once more. This story has also shown again that Red Bull's big collection of young drivers hasn't recently produced any driver who deserves a junior team position in F1. Both problems, higher up meddling and Red Bull's lack of alternatives, are serious issues, not only for Red Bull but maybe the whole grid. Are there even enough good drivers available now? Hopefully the sister team's crazy decision-making in important situations will get better because of its big restructure, with Peter Bayer coming in as CEO and Tost leaving as team principal to be replaced by Laurent Mekies. But if Marco is still around, nothing can be ruled out. More importantly, Red Bull has now passed over 2 of its own drivers to fill a spot in its sister organization. Liam Lawson has been passed over twice, and whether this is because Red Bull wants to see through his Super Formula title campaign or because Red Bull thinks Daniel Ricciardo needs further examination, it shows no confidence in the junior program. So why exactly push Ricciardo forward? The answer is Sergio Perez. As things stand right now, it looks like Daniel Ricciardo's return to Formula 1 with AlphaTauri AlphaTauri is only happening because he thinks it will lead to a return to Red Bull Racing. Any discussion of Red Bull's driver lineup across its two teams, as well as Ricciardo's potential, must include Sergio Perez. While Ricciardo certainly felt pushed to return following his painful McLaren exit and time off, the 8-time Grand Prix winner is unlikely to accept a mid-season return to the struggling AlphaTauri without a bigger reward in mind. Given Perez's current form, the timing of Ricciardo's return to the grid couldn't be better for him. Perez is struggling and has failed to make it to Q3 in 5 straight races, while Verstappen continues to do great in the same car. And now even Ricciardo has driven the same car for a tire test and has impressed the whole team. Perez's most recent qualifying troubles have been particularly bad: 3 track limit violations in Q2 in Austria, losing all 3 laps and starting the Grand Prix 15th, and being knocked out in Q1 in Britain after doing poorly in a late shootout, following a red flag. Red Bull's unhappiness was obvious in Austria, which showed a big difference from how it had previously dismissed Perez's poor performances, even though public support remained strong in both weekends. Christian Horner, team owner of Red Bull Racing, has said clearly that Perez cannot be replaced. After all, he is under contract for next season. In fact, in Austria he made it very clear that any talk otherwise is completely wrong. Then in Britain last weekend he said, "He's the type of guy that just needs an arm around his shoulder and you work with him, and that's what we're doing. We're supporting him. We know he can do it. We know he'll get back there, and we're just trying to make sure it happens as quickly as possible. This is in Red Bull's best interest, even if Perez is just losing the team a couple more medals and points." Verstappen continues winning and both championships are already guaranteed. However, Red Bull must make sure that this doesn't continue. In the long run, Perez said he felt he had the support of Red Bull's leadership after a quiet return to 6th place in Britain. "I couldn't care less if I'm honest about that," he said about speculation about his future and Ricciardo talk. "I've been in Formula 1 for 13 years and I've seen it all. I'm not worried about any of that, and I'm mainly focused on getting my season on track and making sure I keep enjoying this. I have the full support from Helmut Marko and Christian. The whole team is fully backing me and they know what I can do. They know my potential and they are fully behind me." However, the facts remain that Perez is only second in the championship with the best car by a long shot, and he has just 1 podium in 5 races. And Ricciardo will definitely consider his current troubles as a potential reopening of the door to a Red Bull Racing spot. That's the only reason he'd agreed to an AlphaTauri drive during the season. The goal will be to show Red Bull that Ricciardo's McLaren troubles were just that, McLaren struggles. If he does well against Yuki Tsunoda, actually he needs to react fast and beat him. It will go a long way towards showing that Ricciardo is still the force he once was. The easiest way to make that point is to go back on the grid. But AlphaTauri is only a way to get what he really wants. Even so, forcing his way back into the senior team with Verstappen will take a really good performance, and it will require Perez's terrible qualifying to get even worse. But whether it's next year or 2025, Ricciardo's goal is clear: getting the 2nd Red Bull Racing seat. And AlphaTauri right now is the best bet to get this seat. And right now Ricciardo is riding high as he impressed the whole team during his tire test. So after all, AlphaTauri in the seat he didn't want at the start of the season may not be such a horrible long-term option for Ricciardo. The team is planned to change away from being a pure young driver team under